Silver versus gold, it's the eternal question. What has been the better buy over this last 12 months? Well, if you just look at the data, there's one clear winner, and it ain't silver. But just because silver's done badly over one cherry-picked data period of 12 months doesn't mean it's the worst thing that you can look to buy. And in fact, there are a lot of reasons why right now silver is actually a bit of a better buy than gold. So let's dive in and have a look at why that might be. Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here, and a warm welcome to you all joining me for another precious metal ramble. Now, I'm not a charts kind of stacker. I don't sit there and analyse charts for gold and silver and try and find those trend lines of where silver and gold might go to next. Instead, I'm very much more of a top level down, what's happened with gold and silver in the last 12 months kind of guy. And from that data, I think I can instill a fairly decent amount of information about where things might go, or at least how that will affect my own individual stacking. So in today's video, I want to talk a little bit about this last 12 months performance, because there has most certainly been a clear fire winner between gold and silver. And I'll give you a big old clue. It ain't silver that's done best over this last 12 months. And I think that's quite telling, but it does maybe just mean that silver is the thing to buy right now. So there's a lot to unpack in this video. I mean, it's a bit of a big, bold statement to say, isn't it, that the best thing that has happened in the last 12 months is gold, but maybe you should buy silver. Well, bear with me and find out why I maybe think that. And if you would like to comment your own thoughts and opinions on this subject, then please feel free to do so down in that comment section. It's why we make videos like this, to get the brain juices flowing and to share some discourse and opinions. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the thumbs up. It does a lot more than you might think for us YouTubers. So gold, definitely done better over this last 12 months. Let's start there. If you compare just like for like this day last year versus this day this year, gold, depending on your currency, is anywhere from 10 to 12% up. It's seen some really great prices, and part of that is of course down to sort of the inflationary concerns that we've had over the last 12 months, the interest rate rises that have happened as well. There's been a huge jump in that baseline gold price, in my opinion, and we're not likely to see it drop back down to the levels of last year, which was in pounds terms around £1,480 an ounce. Now we're at 1570-ish, something like that today, and very recently we're of course over £1,700 an ounce for a very brief point of time, but 1650 was where things were. So I don't think we're going to be getting down to those sort of 1400 range anytime soon, if at all. Might happen, but it's certainly a new baseline based on the inflationary concerns that have happened over the last year, the cost of living rises, increases, and everything under the sun. Gold is that baseline, and it will stick there. Now, silver, on the other hand, not so much. Silver has, over this last year, dropped in value, depending on the currency that you're in. For pounds, it's around 4% down from this 12-month period. Now, I should just caveat by saying, if you just look at any kind of cherry-picked data from a particular point in time to a particular point in time, you can find the best and the worst results. I'm literally just filming a video mid-December, and those are the results that I have got there. It could be any time of year that you compare like for like, and silver could have done better. But it is still interesting that the comparison there is quite stark. We have a near 15% swing in the performance data for both silver and gold. Silver has, I think, got a new baseline price. It's certainly increased over this last sort of 7 or 8 years from when I started stacking. Believe it or not, spot price was below £10 an ounce when I started stacking silver. Crikey, those were the good days. But of course, now it is significantly higher. I'm not going to be able to open this capsule on camera. Goodness me, these are hard ones to do. Anyway, we'll just have to have a look at it through the capsule lid. So silver has got this new baseline. It's gone up, but I don't think it's gone up the same way as gold has. So there is, in my opinion, still quite a bit of room for silver to potentially grow. That said, it is a lot more of a volatile metal than gold, which would potentially indicate why it's not done quite so well as gold. In fact, it's actually lost money compared to gold. You've got to remember that gold is the thing that fuels the world. Silver is often seen as the poor man's currency. It's the sort of everyday person's money, whereas gold is, of course, the money of governments and central banks. So there are a lot of similarities between gold and silver markets, but also a lot of stark differences, and it's something that should not be ignored, that silver very much is this sort of commodity. However, that volatility could come quite good in the end if things start to catch up and things start to go particularly haywire. So from my perspective as a silver stacker, somebody who is looking to continue to accumulate a certain amount of metals upon every year, what does this mean for me? So looking back at this last 12 months, we see that gold has done quite well. We look at that year-to-year return of around 10 to 12%, depending on the currency you're in. And that's a pretty good return. That's pretty much on par with inflation, depending on how you read inflation results and how you interpret the data. I know everybody has their own different opinions on that. So it's keeping up with inflation at very least. Silver, though, is below inflation, which would suggest that silver is undervalued. And I think that we can agree that silver is undervalued compared with gold, certainly. And so when I'm looking now ahead to 2024, I'm kind of seeing silver in this new light. For this last sort of 2-3 years, I've been focusing much more on accumulating gold for the long-term stack. I have been accumulating some silver along the way in the forms of this Degussa bar didn't even make the cut for my video, but you'll have seen it in different videos. You know, accumulating nice bits of silver at really cheap prices for me is still a great thing. Am I going to go out there and buy a roll of brand new 2024 Britannias from the Royal Mint at the stupidly high premiums and the VAT added on top? No, absolutely not. I will rather just crawl over broken glass, quite frankly, than spend those kind of premiums on silver bullion coins. But if I can find a chunky bar of silver at a decent price on the second-hand market, like the Silver Forum, then if the budget allows, I think that is where I want to be. And that's one of the reasons why I stumped up for this beautiful Engelhard bar a couple of weeks ago. It was very much within my want list, my bucket list for an Engelhard, and it's a decent price, comparatively speaking. Of course, now the price of silver has dropped quite a lot since I bought this bar, but hey, do you know what? You've got to sometimes take those losses and roll with it. I could go and look to buy more right now to even out that cost average, but that's not necessarily a good idea. You're kind of chasing your tail all the way down to the bottom, and that's not quite what you should be doing as a stacker. It's about slow and steady accumulation over time. However, the silver that I'm buying, I don't view as that long-term silver investment, and I'll tell you exactly for why. Because this stuff here, gold, still does better over a long period of time, generally speaking. It's all, of course, subjective to the time that you have it invested and what data you cherry pick and so on. But generally, gold is better, gold is more liquid, gold is safer, it's less volatile. So I see my silver as gold in waiting. The silver bar here that I have bought, I will look to try and make some money on over time. It's more relative to the spot price, of course. It could be a couple of years before that kind of thing is done. But I view it as a bit of a savings account. That money is now locked up in a precious metal. It's a hedge against the gold that I've already got in case things don't turn out the way I want. So having a little bit of both assets is a good thing in my book. And then when the time is right, I can look to accumulate some more gold, but without having to dip into the bank account savings that are maybe yielding better results right now. You know, you can look at interest rates. Arguably, they're going to start coming down at some point in the near future, but interest rates are currently yielding. I've got 6.2% interest accounts for a 1-year fixed-term interest bond, and a lot of people will go, "Oh, you're just burning away money because it's way below inflation." Well, inflation is currently below that, and we're getting a better price than that. Yes, there is also the argument that you could invest that money in other places and you could get better returns on it, but there are much riskier places like any kind of cryptocurrencies, and all the stocks and shares markets seem to be, you know, a little bit iffy at the moment. They go up and down with quite a level of volatility. Silver has that volatility as well, but if you have some savings in cash, it's always a good thing in my opinion. And 6.2% right now per year is a damn sight better than the minus 4% that you're getting on silver. So you can see that there is an argument to be had for both. So having a hedge, having a little bit of everything is, in my opinion, a really good idea. It's not putting all of your eggs in one basket, that famous phrase. And for me, it's about having the ability to cash this out when I need it, when I want it, when I want to have that cash and transfer it into gold. I've already spent this money on the silver bar. If you kind of have that mentality, have that head about saving cash, put it in a bank account, you can use it, you can still get it, you can buy, you can splurge that thing that you want to buy. But if you've got this, it's a lot more difficult to do that. Savings are difficult sometimes to do, but when you are investing in gold and silver, physical gold and silver, it can be a really good way of being able to sort of keep you from spending that money. The only negative thing is if you put it all in silver, of course, you are potentially going to have a hard time selling it. Now, I have over this last year sold over $1 million worth of gold and silver, and that's a genuine fact if you haven't heard, and that's not my own money. I have $1 million in the bank. That would be lovely. Goodness me, I maybe wouldn't be doing YouTube if I had $1 million in the bank. But the point is, I've sold $1 million worth, of other people's gold and silver, and it is liquid. There are definitely liquidity issues when it comes to premium items right now. The markets are very low for those kind of items. You can pick up some great deals right now. But generally speaking, if you need the cash out from your gold and silver, it is not impossible to do at all. You can get that money out. It's just about what price you're actually willing to accept. And there are a lot of people who I see who'll list a 1 ounce gold Britannia well above the odds of what they really can or will get for it, and they'll just not understand why. You've got to price things correctly to get that out. So where this leads me in the conclusion part of the video now, we're over the 10-minute mark, so my ramblers, if you're watching, love you, brilliant, thank you, you're incredible, and you're in the Super Cool Kids Club. What is ahead for 2024? Now, I don't like generally to make predictions for gold and silver prices, where things will be. What I can say with a degree of certainty is nobody knows. So if you go and see all these channels touting off X, Y, and Z price points for gold and silver, don't base your financial decisions on those. Base them instead, I think, on what we know. So we know that inflation is under control. We know that eventually interest rates will have to start coming back down as the interests on the national debts will be unsustainable at these levels, especially if inflation is already at that sort of relatively under control point. So those will start coming down at some point. If interest rates come down, then the cash that you're sitting in those interest rate bonds, which are yielding a fair return over things like silver and gold, will seem less attractive. And maybe the big money out there will start to think about putting things in more volatile assets, like perhaps silver. And I do think silver is something that's relatively undervalued right now compared with gold. Now, that's as close as I will go to sort of doing a prediction, but I do feel that if we make a video this time next year, whether or not we'll see the same kind of spread, but it'll just be a little bit closer, gold will probably still be a winner, I think, this time next year. But I think silver will be hot in its tails. I don't think there'll be a 10-15% swing in difference in performance in a year's time. I think silver is going to continue to catch up to where things are naturally with inflation. That's a bold statement, I know, but that's my sort of gut feeling on things. I could be completely wrong. I probably will be wrong, quite frankly. And of course, because I bought a 100-ounce silver bar the other day, silver price dropped drastically. So I will forewarn you should I decide to buy any more silver, because inevitably it will mean the price goes down. And of course, if I then change and go and look to buy some gold, the same thing will happen. It's one of those, it's the backyard bullion curse, quite frankly. Every time I go and put a commitment in for a decent chunk of change, prices do I nearly said an F word there. Do a F-y wucky is what I was going to say. And it's not great. But hey, that's the world we live in. Anyway, look, that is my ramblings on the subject. The honest answer is, I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody else does. Roll with it. If you have a long-term outlook on gold and silver, then you'll be, to coin a phrase, golden. And I do think perhaps silver, though, has a little bit more going for it right now. It's certainly at that relative price to gold, a little bit more of an attractive option. So that's what I'm looking to accumulate over the coming year. Whether or not I will continue with that throughout the whole year will depend on how things go. And I will maybe do another little video at some point on catching up on how things are. Maybe mid-year. We'll do a mid-year review on that whole stacking scenario. But anyway, that is it from me for today. Thank you very much all for watching. We'll see you on the next video. And as always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.